Welcome. This is Raina Nisus, your host of a Season of Caring podcast, where we share stories of hope for family caregivers, breaking through the busyness and loneliness of life to see God even in your caregiving season. I'm so glad to welcome you today, and I'm excited to introduce you to Terri Liggins. Terri has been a successful ghostwriter for prestigious clients over the past 2 decades, a best-selling author and a health and wellness advocate who discovered the disease-fighting power of eating raw, plant-based foods to get rid of 12-year-long autoimmune disease in just 7 days. She is passionate about helping baby boomers and others transform into healthier beings and live a legacy through sharing their stories. To that end, she created a mobile app, Fourth Quarter Lifestyle, 4QL, that connects individuals with professionals across the United States, offering a range of products and services, including living wills, asset protection, estate planning, downsizing, and so much more. With advanced degrees in business administration and law, Terri is a true powerhouse entrepreneur based in Las Vegas. Explore www.terriliggins.com to learn more. Terri, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much, Raina. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you have quite an unusual background, lots of different things, but in the mix of that, I know that you had taken care of your mom. So share with us a little bit about what that caregiving season looked like.
Yes, that season of caring for my mother came very unexpectedly because she's been a very healthy person. She's in her 80s, but has always taken care of herself, never been on med pretty much her entire life. And I had been prompted, I had an option to move from the West Coast, where I live, Las Vegas, back to Columbus, Ohio, to really help look after my dad. He was the one with more health challenges. Nothing serious, though, but health challenges. At this point, he had had hip surgery, so he wasn't able to return to the home that he and his wife have because it's 2-story. So he was in a facility, and I felt that I could really help out. I have siblings there. They work 9-to-5 jobs. I, as a writer, can work wherever my laptop takes me. So I just felt that, let me go, let me help out. It wasn't the first thought, though, that came to my mind. Like I said, it was definitely an unction from the Lord because I was thinking about those winters. I'm like, really?
Yeah, not fun. Not compared to Vegas, right?
It's like, I'm fine here on the West Coast without all that snow, but I knew I had to do it. So I went there, and my dad unexpectedly passed within 4 months of me being there. So I had pretty much moved my whole household there, expecting to stay for a while. And it just fell into place that, well, now, Mom, I guess I'm here to take care of you. And again, like I said, she wasn't ill or anything, but what I realized, she did not have her affairs in order. It is so very common, and finding out how many people don't. I had not updated mine, so I'm in that category also. But when I talk to people, just, in general conversation, or if I'm going on purpose to speak with them about an article that I'm writing about caregiving, it is just more often than not that people do not have their end of life issues, their final wishes, all of that wonderful paperwork that nobody wants to talk about. It's not filled out. It's not filled out. And, growing up, I really admired my father. He was a strong provider, leader in the whole community. So imagine my astonishment when I realized that he didn't have his totally prepared either. So I was on a mission at that point. I said, okay, I am going to get my mother in order and update my information at the same time. And Raina, do you know, it took like almost 6 months to get it all figured out. The living trust, making sure you have things in that living trust. Okay.
Yes. Doing it all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Setting up one, that's great. That's a very good first step. But if you don't have all your ideas,
doesn't do you any good if there's nothing in it, though.
Exactly. You're just making the attorneys filling their wallet, but it doesn't.
Yes.
Well, because your assets are not saved at all. So
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty much what was going on with me. And do you know, timing's everything, God, because all of that happened right before COVID. Months leading into COVID, I was already there. So it
Yes.
made it perfect. It was just the perfect recipe for taking care of my mother. As I said, I have siblings who are there with their spouses and they live in town, but guess what? They would have been just, I don't know, leaving dinner on the porch for her.
Sure. Yeah.
Porch, helping her out. People were panicking. They were not going near
Yes.
their loved ones. And with me already being in the house, I was okay.
That is amazing. I love God's timing. I don't know about you, but when I look back on my life, there's things that I didn't even know I needed that he set up just like that. You didn't even know that you were going to need to be there because who had heard of a pandemic before it happened? Right? So we didn't even know what it was going to be like. So that's amazing. And I love that you were there to keep her company and she was there for the same thing for you because it was such a blessing to have someone to stay with and to even just to have conversations about the crazy, right? And try to bring each other into that place of rest in God versus the panic that was happening in the world.
Goodness, yes, yes. And to be doing it in a healthy way, staying out of the hospital.
Yes,
that was key. Definitely. That was key as well. My mother being at the time, I believe she was 85. Wow, 84, 85, still working. She works for herself. She's a private piano instructor. Wow. And her studio is in her home. She goes out to some of the students, but most of them, 95% of them, come to the home where she has a studio set up. Guess what happened when the pandemic hit? Nobody.
No one was
going anywhere. She wasn't going to them. They weren't coming to her. She panicked a little bit, like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Again, I was there. Thank goodness I was there and not having to help her over the phone. I said, well, here's what you're going to do, Mom. You're going to learn Zoom.
Zoom. Don't we all love Zoom?
Right. And I must commend her because there are some people who are 20 years her junior who refuse to get on Zoom.
Didn't figure it out.
To learn it. She figured it out. All of her students, almost all of them, maintained their sessions with her via Zoom. And she even brought on new students who she has never met in person because they started during the pandemic and they started on Zoom. So
how neat.
Yeah, about 40 students a week is what she
does. She's a busy lady.
She is. She is. And so that would have been a significant drop in, income to the household to not have any of that happening. And it's been wonderful. She still does some Zoom. Some of them are on Zoom still. Oh, because she has some from all over the country.
I was going to say, because that opened up the area. You don't have to travel there. So that's amazing.
So
how neat.
Yes.
Well, I know one of the things that you experienced with your dad was just those end of life paperwork and things that you mentioned and kind of reaching that place where there were decisions that had to be made that were really difficult. Share with us a little bit about that.
I must say, though, with my father, because it happened within those first 4 months that I was there, I didn't even have a chance to venture down that road. He and his wife had been together for a couple decades. And so one makes the assumption, which shouldn't be the case, the assumption that all of that was taken care of. I was more concerned with just really being there while she was there most of the time, but they were needing to sell their 2-story house and move into another house. So she was there, getting the house renovated and just still as a school teacher, part-time school teacher, she was still doing that. She was very, very busy. And so that was my thought process was to go there and help out wherever I could. So I spent a lot of time with him in the facility where he was and attempted to get him to eat a little healthier. He wasn't having some things he could deal with, but green juicing, just the color. So we had some really fun moments him teasing me about my way of eating. At this point, as you mentioned in the introduction, I had adopted a lifestyle that was totally different than most of my family members. 90% of what I eat is uncooked, unprocessed, raw plant-based foods, grains and nuts and sprouted items and all of that. And that was to get rid of a disease, which happened, 12 years ago. I went hard on that because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've been dealing with this autoimmune disease for 12 years in and out of the hospital. So when that opportunity came where I learned about nutrition, I'm like, I'm all in. I will do this. And so I went 100% from eating junk food. I mean, I loved a drive-through. If that could replace me having to cook dinner, that was where I was in somebody's drive-through. So I was eating pretty poorly. And I went just from one day eating like that to the next day eating 100% raw plant-based foods. So that is what got rid of everything. I had annoying things, menopausal things on top of the autoimmune disease. All of those things went away in just 7 days. So I was sold on it at that point. Over the course of 6 months, I lost 30 pounds, and that was without any major exercise. And so no one could tell me otherwise that this, was not the right way to eat. Introducing it to my family members, though, was a little, that was a whole different.
Yep.
And so you have to let people just kind of come on board as they wish. Unless they had some really serious medical things, then I would get persistent. And that was the case once with my mother in 2017. She had a mild stroke. And as I mentioned, she had never really been on meds her entire life. The only time she was in the hospital was to give birth to her 5 children. She had an inner ear infection back in 2017. And this particular doctor gave her antibiotics that within a week of taking those antibiotics, she had this stroke.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just, too much for her system. And so I flew there to take care of her to make sure she wasn't going to take all of those meds that the hospital was prescribing to her. One after another, I was like, nope, we're not that.
Yeah.
Nope, not taking that. Nope, she's not taking that. And would you believe, Raina, that within 5 days of just feeding her living superfoods as I eat and giving her 2 tablespoons of hemp seed oil every day, and we got rid of, they had prescribed statins for her. They said her cholesterol was a little high. Statins, no human should be taking statins, right? And so I was doing the food for her instead of statins. And when she went for a follow-up, the doctor was like, wow, what are you doing? Because he was looking at the report from the hospital compared to the tests he had just given her. And he said, your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol has come down 50%. And this is in 5 days, just 5 days. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He said, I'm 30 years your junior. Person couldn't believe she was 80 something. He said, I'm 30 years your junior and my numbers have never looked this good. So I just, so what can I say? So when COVID came along, it just made sense. Keep feeding my mom the same type of foods to keep her out of this.
Stay healthy.
Yeah. Everyone was panicking and rushing to the hospital. We just did it a different way. So caregiving comes in a lot of different stages.
It does. And their willingness, you brought up a good point too. I think we have to work with what we got, and convincing them to work with us and to make some of the changes. When we were caring for my dad, the doctor recommended we go dairy-free. And one of his things, he loved ice cream every night. And I was like, gosh, when you're 85, you should get to have what you love, right? And so I felt terrible taking that away from him. And so we were able to find some alternatives. We actually were able to find a rice stream that we could put some chocolate chocolate sauce on there. And he loved it just like he did his regular ice cream. So I think we have to find the alternatives and work with what we've got, but it definitely can be challenging and at the same time can bring so much benefit. So we do have to weigh those two things. So tell us one thing that you feel like is really surprising in your caregiving experiences.
Wow. I had more experience watching other people in their caregiving role because I have several girlfriends who are caring for their parents. And what I found very surprising is how many people are going at it alone, not
Mm.
realizing the resources that are out there. As women, we tend to be the caregiver by default. It's sort of like in our nurturing nature to care
Mhm.
without asking for help. I think that's what a
Yes.
lot of it was. Not that the help wasn't available, it's that we aren't always asking for it. Because I know in my case, as I said, my siblings lived right in town. Anytime I would have asked them to do anything, and anytime that I did ask them, they were Johnny on the spot,
Yep.
ready to do it. But did I ask? No. Mainly because of COVID. So my caregiver was
Yeah.
because of COVID. So that was a reason. But yet they could still, there were times when I couldn't take her to the doctors, because of a Zoom meeting I had or something.
Sure.
And someone else could do that. But other times, like if we needed an errand run, I just didn't feel right asking someone else. I would just do it. So a person can, in fact, statistics show that unfortunately the caregiver tends to die before the person they're caring for. And that is simply because they're not engaging in self-care. Yeah.
I agree. And I think one of the things that many times is I'm coaching and they're saying, but nobody else will help. It's like sometimes I think we put it out in a way that we don't need help.
Mhm.
We're handling it. And also I think we have to be willing. Yeah, we got that superhero cape on and we're just not asking. But I also think sometimes we get particular in the way we want things done. And I know as my sister and I were both caring for my dad, there were things that she liked and there were things that I liked. And we just learned to let each other have what we needed and not worry about it. But I do think sometimes there's that piece in which we have to let go, and letting go
Yeah.
of control is hard. And so sometimes people just disappear because they feel like they can't do it right anyway. And so they just stop offering or they stop trying. And
Yep.
we really do have to be open
Yeah.
to whoever the Lord brings, whether they be family or paid caregivers or friends. There's support around you. You just have to look for it. So
It's
that's a
all
really good
around.
point.
Yeah, and I must say that type of tendency to do it all because only we can do it right, that starts even when we first have little children. I mean, when our children are very little, and even when they're a baby, how many times, and it's changing a lot now. Back in the day, it was a thing where the father was babysitting. Why is he the babysitter and not the parent, and doing all these parental roles like the mother is? And it's because a lot of the times the woman is to blame because she keeps him at bay because he doesn't do it right. He doesn't change the diaper
Yeah.
right. And you have to get to the point where if the diaper is even on backwards, you have to just say, it's okay. It's okay. I see that diaper backwards. He did the best he could. I'm not going to complain about it. But I probably was one of those that I know I was probably, I was one of those that would redo something that was done wrong. I've learned. And if I were at that stage now, knowing what I know now, I would tell my 20, or I was 30 having children. I would tell my 30-year-old self, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, it is important. And like you said, I think sometimes earlier in life, we're in training for what it's going to look like later. And hopefully we have gotten better at letting people help and asking for help because it is very important. So where would you say you saw God show up for you in these seasons of caring that you've had?
Oh, wow. From the very beginning, just getting me positioned there. As I said, I was happy as a clam here in Las Vegas, where the sun is shining 300 days of the year. And I had no intention, besides going back home to visit, which I would do, I don't know, a couple times a year. I had no intention of living there. I had not even lived there since leaving home after college. So why Was I to uproot and go there? Only God knew, but I just knew that
Yeah.
I needed to go. He showed up in just being gracious with me, though, initially. And because I did have some things I needed to take care of. And it took me about several months to finish out obligations here, pack up, load up everything, go across country and get settled in. And then here's the interesting thing, because I don't believe in coincidences and chance. And as I said, my dad's wife, she was very much hands-on with his care and there in the facility as much as she could, a lot. And then, but having to run errands, she also takes care of her special needs sister, and she was doing a lot. How is it that as he was transitioning to heaven, I was the only one there? Out of all the people who live there in town, I happened, I don't want to say it happened to me, but I was there. God planted me there. And I was just taking him some soup for the day. I was just, thought, let me run to the grocery store as I'm on the way to see him. Let me grab some soup and take to him. And he was speaking, and I thought he was on his cell phone as I was approaching in his room, until I got closer and I saw there's no cell phone. And he was looking up. He did not even know I was in the room. And so as a ghostwriter of many years, what do? I record people's stories and write about them. So it was just a natural act for me to whip out my cell phone and turn my voice recorder on, voice memo, I think it's called, on, and I started auto recording him. And I don't think that anyone else would have thought to do that. Any other? Yeah. They would have thought it would have been rude or intrusive, or they just wouldn't have thought of that.
Right. Not cross their mind.
Yeah. It would have been more of a panic, like, what's going on or whatever. But I just calmly pulled this out and started recording him. And so that was a nice gift that I could give to, LaDonna later when she arrived and he had already had his last breath. So, and it's powerful. God just, he showed up at that moment, I must say. And it's just the whole setting. My dad grew up just loving Westerns. I don't know, why. It was just part of his childhood, I guess. There's a picture of him as maybe like a teenager or, I don't know, young boy. And he had a sweatshirt on that had a Western theme. He watched Bonanza all the time and all those other shows when we were growing up as kids. He watched all of them. And at that moment when I was approaching him in his room, there was a Western playing on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Do not. That was a Western. Cute. So I didn't even turn the TV off. I just let it go. I'm like, wow, look at that.
Yeah. His favorite. That's cool. So I love it when we have a chance to see God in the middle of it, because he's always there. We know that he is. Sometimes we just looking and recognizing it. So I love to hear different ways that God shows up for our caregivers, because I think it just encourages us as listeners to look for him more and be able to notice those times. So thanks for sharing that. Thank you for joining us today, listeners, and hearing Stories of Hope with Terri. Today's podcast is brought to you by No Regrets, Hope for Your Caregiving Season. A recent review on Amazon says, Raina provides a beautifully written book that is honest about her own journey as a caregiver and helps to provide encouragement to others. There's not a chapter that didn't speak to my own heart, as I am currently caring for my mother with dementia. Raina provides great advice on how to support a loved one, but also reminds the readers to take care of him or herself. Although it can be difficult to believe that our caregiving season will one day pass, Raina gently reminds us that we must always prepare for the day when there is a new season ahead. No Regrets, Hope for Your Caregiving Season is my practical guide filled with stories and ideas of how to care for your loved one. If you would like to order your copy, you can find it at all major retailers or visit noregrets-book.com. And I do have a special gift pack with an inscribed version available. So again, let's jump into hearing some more about Terri and her caregiving season. So what would be one way that you feel like you've lived content, loved well, and cared without regrets?
That's a good one. That's on different levels too, also.
We aren't always good at all of it, and sometimes it can be trickier for sure.
Yeah. I think at different ages and different stages of my life, I contribute. And as a writer over the past 2 decades, a lot of what I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, writing individuals' autobiographies. That's what I don't know how I came into that, except a God thing as well. So I can't say I don't know how, but it is a God thing because I'm able to write in their voice. I've had client after client tell me that. They're like, wow, you get me, you get my voice. And it's just from once I hear their story and we're conversing for a bit, I can kind of, channel them. I don't want to say quite all that, but it is what I did a lot in being able to write an autobiography for someone and then handing them the draft and say, what do you think of this? So I think helping others tell their story so that it inspires, encourages, and empowers their readers, that was a way that I was giving back big time and sharing my talent to bring love and comfort and peace to individuals through those stories, because some of them were pretty heart-wrenching.
Using our talents to be able to encourage others, I think, is such a blessing. And it definitely is something that even as caregivers, we have a tendency just to have that heart, but learning to really listen and be able to share other stories, I think it's such a blessing. So thank you for that. That's neat. So here, as we're winding down, tell me a little bit more about your app and about how people can stay in touch with you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for asking about it. The app, Fourth Quarter Lifestyle, came to me probably back in 2015, 2016, as I was watching one of my girlfriends helping her mother with dementia. And her mother is still with us and great in her body, but deteriorating in the mind. And so just the strength that it's taken for my girlfriend and her brother to really care for their mother, it's amazing. So as I was seeing this before I even had any duties of that sort, and even now, even as my father passed, he was fit in the mind. He never had any of that. But just seeing her find so many resources, she and another girlfriend, they were very, very on top of it. They researched and found, how the state can pay you to care for your loved one, the transportation that's available, the adult daycare, things like that. They did such a great job of it. And yet then there were others who I would talk to who just didn't know any of these resources were out there. I thought, okay, I need to connect the dots. I need to allow those who know this information to connect with those who don't, and to be a resource or a shoulder to cry on at times, because there were times that my girlfriend and I, we would just laugh about things that her mother was doing. We would laugh to keep from crying. They are doing things that a 2-year-old would do. Yet they have the attitude of, I'm an adult. You can't tell me what to do. You're in my house, or if they're in, like she's in her daughter's house and she doesn't want to be there because she wants to be in her own house. So there was just so many dynamics. The app was just an idea that how can I bring this to fruition and allow people to have it handy 24/7. So that is a feature of it. It is 24/7. It's on your phone, and it's divided by state because there are different laws in the different states. Probate laws are different. If you are dealing with someone passing without a will and what's going to happen with the house, and it's in probate all of those things. It's amazing. There's what I'm realizing is that the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know. So it's absolutely a journey. I was to pitch the idea in the midst of COVID when I was after being faced with it myself with my dad. I'm like, okay, God, you are giving me a taste of what it really is with this caregiving thing to be open to see other things that are needed for the app. And then I had the opportunity in 2021 to pitch the idea to a developer. It's in the beta stage right now. It is hopefully to be launched in 2020, ready for individuals to partake of it. There's so many additions to this thing that as it grows with AI. How about that? With the smart homes, so you can have if you're caring for your parent and you're in another state, which is the case a lot with baby boomers, but even help unlock their door from a distance with your phone, with the app. So the opportunities are endless with this app. I'm very excited about it. And I know things like this take time and I have to be patient. I've learned to be patient through it as we're now rounding into the second year, almost third year of working with it. But it will be grand when it's out, targeting mainly baby boomers, but it could be for anyone. If you're caring for a special needs person and they're only in their 30s or 40s or something, or a teenager or whatever, this app is for you as well. If you're an elder person that's caring for yourself, you're well, but you need to get your affairs in order, you would be able to go on the app and find attorneys who do estate planning, professional organizers who would do decluttering and downsizing if you need to sell your house to move into a facility, and individuals who are in home care, owners or workers. I mean, it's endless. I'm real excited about it. And I can be reached at terriliggins.com. That's my first name, Terri, Liggins, Liggins.com. And there'll be information there.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Terri, and just sharing some of the stories and the journeys of what it's been like for you in your caregiving season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again for joining us on the Season of Caring podcast, where we share stories of hope for family caregivers. If you have financial, legal, or medical questions, be sure to consult your local professionals and take heart in your season of caring.